Hello, I'm Penny, this is Penelope's Pitstop, and in this video we're going to be going through issues 3 and 4 of the Spitfire. Some of it I've built already, some of it I need to rebuild.
For those who fought in the Battle of Britain, it was a battle for survival. For the free world, it was a breathless moment in history. For failure would have plunged mankind into a new dark age. Never have so many owed so much to so few.
So let's begin with the parts checklist. Part 1, fuselage below the engine. Part 2, we have top of engine block. Part 3 and 4 is the engine block outer and inner. Part 5 is the top of engine block. 6 and 7 is the engine block inner and outer, which looks very similar to 3 and 4. Yeah, it does. Part 8 is 2 nameplates. Part 9 is the base of engine block, as is part 10. Part 11 is 2 by 6mm PB screws. And part 12 is 2 by 4mm PM screws. So let's look at stage 1. We take 2 engine block parts 306 and 307, test fit the assembly so that the pegs on the inside of part 7 fit into the sockets in part 306 as shown. Apply a little super glue to the pegs and fix the parts together. So I can't show you because I have, as you can see, I have progressed a little bit further. This is a recap, but I believe that the parts are there. So obviously I will skip over the parts that I have done. So that takes us on to stage 2, which is take the first engine nameplate 308 and the top of the engine block 305, fit the pegs on the part 308 into the holes in part 305. This is a push fit connection, and what that piece is this piece here where it says Rolls-Royce. Beautiful part. And then on to stage 3, fit part 305 into the assembly 306 307 from step 1. When you are happy with the fit, apply a little super glue around the rim of parts 306 307 and fix together. So that is, we've just put the nameplate into this top piece there, and then we've glued this onto this part. And then on to stage 4, 5 and 6, which is pretty much the same. We take the next 2 engine block parts 305 and 304, test the fit so that the pegs on part 305 fit into the recesses in part 304. When you are happy with the fit, apply a little super glue to the pegs and fix in place. Then in the same way, take the other engine nameplate 308 and push into the top of the engine block 302. Again, this is a push fit connection. Then stage 6, fit the top of the engine block 305 into the engine block assembly 303 304. When you are happy with the fit, apply a little super glue around the rim of parts and fix in place. So what we will end up with there is these 2 separate pieces. Yeah, these 2 separate pieces there. So on to stage 7. Place the 2 sides of the engine block 303 304 and 306 307 together to form a V shape, as shown. Note that the nameplates 308 face outwards. Fit the 2 engine block bases 309 310 on either side of the engine block assembly. Fix the engine block bases together with a PB screw, which is 311. You may find it easier to partially screw parts 309 and 310 together and then insert the engine blocks into the gap before tightening the screw. So what you will end up with, and it's really hard to see, just down there you see you've got two plastic pieces. This is what you've screwed together with this, and that should bring it all together. You may, do you know, I've got that wrong. That's actually this piece here as well. So what you've got is you've not got this middle piece yet. You've just got these two engine blocks and this piece there, and that is that issue complete. The next step, or sorry, I said it's that complete. You have got issue 8, which is this piece, and take the piece of the fuselage 301 and the lower fuselage frame 205 supplied with issue 2, fit the raised screw socket on part 301 into the hole in the base of part 205. At the same time, 2 locating pins circled will engage in matching sockets. Note that the frame is slightly angled. When the 3 holes at the end of the fuselage are flat on the work surface, the top ends of the frame will be flat rather than sloping, as indicated by the yellow arrows fixed in place with a PM 2x4mm screw. So what you will end up with stage 8 is this. So you have you see how these lay flat and parallel with this piece, but not with this piece. So that's it. So let's have a look at the finished parts. The engine block has been assembled and the first part of the frame has been fitted to the first part of the fuselage. So doing a comparison, there's one piece, and obviously this engine block is this way round, but obviously you haven't got all of this extra around it. Okay guys, so on to the next issue. So as always, we'll do a parts listing. So we have piece 1, engine cover panel left. 2, 3 and 4 are magnet fixtures, L1, R1, L2. 5 is the engine housing inner, and 6 is the engine housing front. Piece number 7 is a frame with end blocks, A and B. End blocks A and B. C and D will be used later on. Piece 8 is the engine housing front. 9 is a single magnet marked on the wide side, and 10 is 2 magnets marked on the narrow sides. And then piece 411 is 7 2x4mm PM screws. So one of the things I do really like about the packaging from the Spitfire, and I hope they continue this all the way through the build, if you chop the edges off, you end up with 2 trays. So this tray here, which is normally would be rubbish, that will make a very useful plate just to do your gluing on. So you can glue, any spills go on here, you're going to throw it away in the end. And then, whereas I like to lay my parts out on a piece of paper and mark all the parts, these are all sat nicely in a tray. So as you can see, I just write the numbers on them. So we've got piece number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11. Now one thing I did notice is piece number 2, which is a magnet fixture. Now you can see that is the correct piece, they do match. Now according to the magazine it says magnet fixture L1, and on the piece it clearly has an R, and likewise piece number 3, you can see that is clearly piece number 3. According to the magazine, magnet fixture R1, and that clearly has an L on it. So I'm doing this from memory, I don't remember building it, and I have actually already built this part. So I will keep an eye on and I will do a comparison, but this piece there, I think this one we don't don't use this week, but this one is this. That's piece number 2 there, and this is piece number 4. As you can see, I won't be putting the magnets in this week because, like I say, I've already put them in, but I will keep an eye on this part. Okay, so on to stage 1, and we need to take the engine housing parts 406, 408, identify the 3 pegs on part 6 circled and the corresponding holes in part 8. So this is part 8, which is the engine housing front, and part 6 engine housing front. So you can see there you've got 3 little nobule, what do you call those, 3 little nipples, and then you've got 3 holes there, and that's going to go in like that. So excuse me. Stage 2, after testing the fit, use a cocktail stick to apply a tiny bit of super glue to the 3 pegs on part 6. Fit the engine housing part 8 over the pegs as shown. So I'm going to do this ever so slightly differently. What they're asking us to do is to apply glue to those 3 pegs there. But what I'm going to do, I've noticed on the test fit that's quite flat there. So what I want to do is just apply a tiny layer of glue along the middle there. I'm not going to go up to the edge because if I apply too much, when I squish it down, it'll all come out the side. Now, I would not advise you to use cheap super glue because you are sticking metal to plastic. Anything involving metal, generally the cheaper super glues won't work. The glue that I personally use is Gorilla Super Glue Gel. I do love the gel because it just seems a lot easier to work with. The word of advice though is you shake it every single use. I think this is made up of 2 different substances, and it only works when they're mixed. If they do separate, and they just separate very quickly, neither part seems to bond on its own. So I'm going to do this properly. If I was doing this off camera, I will confess I'd probably apply this straight to the metal part, and this does bond very quickly and very, very strong. So I'm just going to apply a few little tabs along the middle, and I can still apply to the actual tabs as well. Once I've got it on, I'm just going to spread it about a little bit. I haven't got a lot of working time because this is a quick bonding glue, but I'll just apply a little to each of the tabs. And what I would probably do with the tabs is just pop the whole bottle over the top. So working fairly quickly but not rushing. Cannot find the holes. There we go, and I'll just press that together for 2 or 3 seconds. That's all I need, and then that should be stuck. No, that's not quite stuck yet, so we'll give that a little bit longer. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and that's almost bonded. So it is old glue, to be honest with you, so it might be no longer working. But I can assure you, once this Gorilla Glue sticks, that ain't ever coming apart. Right, so that has glued. Now ideally you would leave this overnight. Anytime you use any glues, let it cure overnight. There's a big difference between sticking time and curing time. This will bond, this will stick within seconds, definitely less than a minute at worst case scenario. However, it's at its strongest after about 24 hours, 10 hours overnight, and obviously that depends on the temperature as well. So stage 3, take the inner engine housing 405, identify the 3 pegs around the inner rim of part 406 and check the fit. Apply a little super glue to the peg on part 406 and fix part 5 in place. So piece 5 is this one here, and we can see 3 small holes, 1, 2, 3, and that will need to line up with the 3 pegs, the black pegs on the piece that we've just done. So we will do a little test fit. Always do a test fit first. There we go. And what will happen is that the new piece will just hang on the inside. Can you see it there? You've got a straight edge there, but once you put this in place, it will just hang. And I think the way I will tackle this, it is a rather tight fit for me, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to super glue along there, along the edge, and I know that I can get a really clear, really thin layer. I won't use the old super glue. Basically, once you've squeezed it out of the bottle, give it a working life of about 2 minutes. After that, it's just not really going to work so well. It's going to start drying funny, and it's just not really going to be at its peak. I know branded super glues aren't cheap, but this Spitfire is a lot more expensive, so you don't want to ruin your whole model over the sake of a 1 drop of glue. Right, so I'm going to pop. It's probably going to be easier to work it from this side because you can see where it's going to finish up. Whoops. And I want to just lay that on my finger and bring the part with the glue on up to the part without glue, and look at that, straight in. So we'll leave that for, push it down for about, what did we say last time, about 10 seconds. Mary had a little lamb, its fleece is white as snow, and everywhere that Mary went the lamb was sure to follow, something like that. And there we go. Oh, that's not quite in. I think I've got old glue, guys, because this seems to be taking an awful long time to dry. So what I will do after I finished filming this is I will order some new glue, but going back to the previous part, that's stuck in there. That is not coming out, I promise you. This one you could get away with using cheaper super glue because it's plastic on plastic. I wouldn't use polystyrene cement because this is ABS plastic, but I would imagine cheaper super glue would do the job. So on to stage 4, and stage 4 says cut parts A and B from the frame 407, smooth any roughness with fine sandpaper, check which way round they are fitted to part 408, and apply a little super glue to the tabs on parts A and B, fix in place. So these are the parts that they're talking about. Now I use a fairly good set of side cutters, and all you need to do is snip them, and you usually find that it goes all the way to the end, but if you do find you have a little tab, just take that little bit off. Now the problem with sanding this down is you are going to remove some of the silver, and that's going to expose black underneath. So you could, if you wanted to, just take it a step further and just apply a little bit of silver paint to the top. I'll be honest with you, I would leave that until most of the engine is built, and then you can do all of it in one go, just covering up the parts that show. So there's a little bit of rubbish there, so be responsible, pop that into the bin. So these are going on to this part. Now I want to put them on the orientation that it says, and I think that's A and that's B. And the reason I say that is if you look at A, it looks like this piece is sticking out at the top more so than it would if this was A. It doesn't say clearly on the label, on the actual sprue, which one is which, but we are going to do a test fit. So this is the orientation on the magazine, and I can see there's a little hole there, and I've placed that on there, and that looks like it does fit. So let's try it on the wrong hole, and you can clearly see that's the wrong hole. So that's going, it's actually no, it's two little lines, two little guidelines in a hole. So that will go on like that, and then that means this one is going to go on like this. So I'm happy with that dry fit, so I will just prepare my surface and I'll glue that on. So I actually struggled with that glue. The first time I thought it was maybe I hadn't mixed it properly, shaken it properly, and then I glued where I wanted to glue, but I found it was actually easier to glue along this, the top of this piece rather than the bottom of that piece. And then it went in absolutely fine after that, and then I glued the second one on, and it's just struggling to stick a little bit. This really is acting up. However, this bottle is probably about a year or two old, probably about more like 2 years old. You can tell from the lid it's not fantastic, and it's not even been opened in the last 7 or 8 months. So I think this glue is on its last leg. So when you see me struggling with gluing, please don't think it's the parts. I think it's the equipment that I'm using. So let's have a look at stage 5. This shows the assembled front section of engine housing with parts 4, 7, A and B fixed in place. And as you can see, mine does look like that, which I'm rather happy with. So stage 6, which I won't be doing, I will show you because I've already done it. Take the fuselage panel 401 and identify the fixing positions for the magnets. Take the first magnet 410 and the magnet fixture 402. Note the magnet 410 has a black mark on one narrow side. This indicates the polarity and should face upwards. Insert and brown arrow. Fit the magnet into the fixture 402 and fix to the inside of the fuselage using a PM 2x4mm screw. Take a magnet 409 marked on the wide side and the magnet fixture 404. In this case, the black mark on the magnet should face towards the fuselage, brown arrow. Fix the magnet into the fixture 404 and fix to the inside of the fuselage 401. So this is the completed piece, and yes, so your line on the magnet should not be showing, but it should be showing on there, because that line should be upwards and this one should be inwards. So let me just let's get the actual magnets, because like I say, there are 3 magnets but they're 2 separate parts. So we'll see if I can't even find any light. There we go. So this particular one has got a little mark on the top. It's not black as it says in the magazine, it's white. So this one will be the one that goes there, like that. And I believe there's one going to be left over, and that will be this one. So this also goes upwards. And then that will leave this third magnet. You see that's got a mark on the side, and that's to go on this one. And if I place it that way, you see it sticks. But if I turn it the wrong way round so the mark is up, you see it's not going to, it really tries to flip. I can't do it. And that will come into play later on. In fact, you can do this because this part's already been built. and that's going to connect up with a magnet there and a magnet there. And if you've done this correctly, so now you're thinking I haven't, there we go, it should just fall into place like that. See how it all connects up. So if you just flick it a little bit, see how it connects all nicely, and then you lift this bit up and it falls into place, and that's how it should go. So this is obviously going to be a side panel, it's removable to expose the engine. So let's have a look at the completed work. So what we have assembled in this issue, we should have this piece and we should have this piece. And it says the nose of your Spitfire model is beginning to take shape and an engine cover panel has had magnets fitted. The two remaining parts on the frame force 7, and let me just remind myself of force 7. That's this piece here. So the remaining pieces on force 7 will be used in a future issue. Leave them attached to the front frame and store safely. The remaining magnet, which has now gone, that's somewhere I know. Okay, the remaining magnet fixture and screws will also be used in a future issue, so label them and store them safely. And that is the end of the issue. So let's have a look at the parts that we're going to get in the next 2 issues. Now next week will be the last time I do a double issue. I've been working on these videos and they're getting quite difficult to do 2 issues, and I've just found that magnet, there it is, so that's gone for a run there. So what I've decided, next week I've already committed to doing 2 issues, but what I'm going to do, rather than do 2 issues in a magazine, it's just far easier for me to release 2 separate videos for next week, for each issue. So let's say next week will be 2 issues. So let's have a look at the parts. So coming up in issue 5, another section of fuselage, brackets the right side engine cover, plus parts for the front of the engine housing. And then coming up in issue 6, and I notice that these are all, they look plastic parts, a number of accessories for the engine attached to frames, plus some larger details are supplied with the next issue. So that's it from me then. So I hope you'll be watching my video next week where we will tackle issues 5 and 6.